Welcome to online class on Transfer of Property Act. Yesterday we had discussed the provisions from 45, section 45 to section 52. For your better understanding of those provisions, let me remind you those provisions again. What section 45? Section 45 of the Transfer Property Act provides when there is a joint transfer for consideration of a movable property, what will happen? Joint transfers for consideration where immovable property is transferred for consideration to two or more persons, and such consideration is paid out of a fund belonging to them in common. Suppose a piece of land was transferred to Mr. X and Y, and X and Y paid the consideration money from a common fund. So in such case, then to what extent each of them will get interest in that property? This is provided in section 45. When a property is transferred for consideration to two or more persons, and such consideration is paid from a common fund, then in such case, those transferee, in the absence of a contract to the contrary, suppose at the time of transfer, there is a contract that a particular transferee will get a particular share in that property, or another transferee will get a particular share in that transfer. So that is in absence of a contract to the contrary. Then each of them is respectively entitled to get interest in the property as nearly as may be when the interest to which they were respectively entitled in the fund. What is that fund? Suppose X and Y, they purchased a piece of land by paying from their common fund of Rs 10 lakh. If there is a contract to the contrary, or to the interest, to the share of interest, that is different. If such a contract is not there, then they are entitled to get interest in that property according to their share in that common fund. Suppose out of that 10 lakh rupees, A had 60% share or B had 40% share. In such case, if there is no contract to the contrary, whenever that property is purchased or that is transferred, they became transferee for consideration, then they are entitled to get interest in proportionate their share in the fund. Or if they pay the money, consideration money from their separate fund, then in such case, they will get interest in that property according to the value, in proportionate to the value of the share or the money contributed by them. If no such evidence is there, suppose there is no evidence, what is the share of A and B in that common fund? Or there is no evidence how much of money A and B paid separately. But if the money is paid from a common fund, in such case, those transferees will get equal share. So the rule is very simple. That means if two or more persons, they become transferee for consideration out of a common fund. So in such case, each of them is entitled to get interest in that property according to their share in that fund. If they have paid the consideration out of their fund separate fund, then they will get interest in the property in the proportionate to the value of the fund they have paid. If no such evidence is available as to how much share each of them had in that common fund, or as to how much of money each of them had paid separately in purchasing that property or in getting transfer of that property, in such case, each of them will get equal share in that property. Section 46, what it provides in the opposite side, that is, when immovable property is transferred for consideration by person having distinct interest. Distinct interest means, suppose A and B having distinct, separate. A had 60% share in a particular property, B had 40% share in that property. Both of them transferred that property to another. So in such case, what will happen? The transfers are, in the absence of a contract to the contrary, entitled to share in the consideration money. So how much money each of them will get? If a consideration money, whatever consideration money they receives, out of that consideration money, they will take share according to their share of interest in that property. Where their interest in the property are equal, they will get equal share. When they are in unequal share, then they will get a share in the consideration money according to their respective share. This is section 46. Section 47 says, what it says, when several co-owners of immovable property transfers a share thereupon without specifying that the transfer is to take effect on any particular share or shares of the transferors, then the transfer as among such transferors take effect on such share equally where the shares were equal and where they were unequal proportionately to the extent of such share. Suppose a particular piece of land. On that piece of land, A had 50% share, B had 25% share, C had 25% share. They, 1 acre of land. So out of that 1 acre of land, suppose 50 decimal was transferred by A, B, C jointly. So without specifying as to what extent of land will go from their respective share. In such case, out of that 50 decimals of land, that 25 decimals will go from A's share, there is 12.5 decimals will go from B share, and 12.5 decimals will go from C share. This is according to the provisions of section 47. What it says? Where several co-owners of immovable property. There, in respect of an immovable property, there are more than one owner, that is several co-owners. They transfer their share in that property without specifying that the transfer is to take effect on any particular share. That without specifying from which persons, which transferor, how much share is being transferred. So in such case, though if in such case take effect in a particular share, the transfer as among such transferors, takes place on such share equally. If they have equal share in that property, then the transfer will take effect from equal share, or if they have unequal share, then transfer will take effect as per their respective share. Now section 48 we have discussed earlier, that is priority. When a transfer is created, there are different time transfers are created on a particular piece of land or one immovable property at different times. Then the first in point of time will be enforced first. If thereafter, if property is left, then the second transfer will be enforced. This section provides priority of rights created by transfer. Where a person purports to create by transfer at different times. So a purport is said to transfer certain property, and property is transferred at different time, and such rights cannot all exist or be exercised to their full extent together. Such rights of transfer, such transfers cannot exist. The right created under those transfer, right cannot exist in full extent together, then each latter created right shall, in the absence of a special contract or reservation binding the earlier transferees, be subject to the right previously created. This is, that is, earlier transferee shall have priority of right over the subsequent transferee. Only exception is, as per the provisions of section 78 of the Transfer Property Act, what it says, when because of fraud, if the first mortgagee, another person becomes the mortgagee, then in such case, his right will be postponed till the realization of the mortgage money by the subsequent mortgagee. Now section 49, what it provides, that when an immovable property is transferred and that was subject to this insurance, that and by that means if any damage or damages or compensation is paid to the original owner, then from that owner the transferee is entitled to get the money to restore the property which has been damaged. What is section 49 says? Where immovable property is transferred for consideration and such property or any part thereof is at the date of the transfer insured. On the date of the transfer, that property or a part of that property had been insured against what? Against any loss or damage by fire. Then the transferee, in case of such loss or damage, if any loss or damage takes place because of fire, in such case the transferee may, in the absence of a contract to the contrary, require any money which the transferor actually receives. If the transferor actually receives any money, insurance money, then the transferee will require that transferor to make good the loss which is sustained due to such fire accident. That is in provision section 50. Section 51, improvement made by bona fide holder under defective title. What is? When the transferee of immovable property, a person is the transferee of immovable property, makes an improvement on the property. He makes an improvement believing in good faith that he is absolute entitled thereto. This section will not be applicable when the transferee knows that he had a defective title. The transferee knows that he was not the owner. But this will be applicable when a person believing in good faith that is absolutely entitled to any immovable property, makes any improvement on it, and is subsequently evicted therefrom by any person having a better title. First thing, this will be a person is a transferee in respect of immovable property. He believes in good faith that he is absolutely entitled for such property, and he makes any improvement on that property. And if subsequently he is to be evicted by a person having a better title, then in such case, the transferee has a right. What type of two rights are available? One right is to require the person causing the eviction. The transferee has a right that he will require the person who will evict him, either to have the value of the improvement estimated and paid or secured to the transferee. What first option? He will require the person who has a better title to evict him from that property, require him to estimate the value of the improvement made by him and to pay the same, or to give security for payment of the same, or to sell interest in the property, or he may require that the person having better title to who is entitled to evict him to transfer that property in the then market value. Transfer his interest in the property in the then market value. This is section 51. The amount to be paid or secured in respect of such improvement shall be the estimated value thereof at the time of eviction. So, what type of the improvement, the value of the improvement is to be estimated. What at the time of eviction, what will be the value of that improvement? That will be taken into consideration, and the transferee will require that person having better title who is entitled to evict him from that property to pay that money. Or similarly, when under the circumstances aforesaid, the transferee has planted or sown. Suppose the transferee has planted or sown any crop or any tree on that land, and he is to be evicted by a person who has a better title than him. So in such case, he has a right to that. He is entitled to such crop and to free ingress and egress to gather and carry those crop or trees. Section 52 is popularly known as the doctrine of lease pendens. What doctrine of lease pendens says? The property cannot be transferred during pendency of a litigation so as to defeat the decree which will be passed in the case. This is section 52. During pendency of any suit in respect of any movable property in any court competent to try it in India or a court which is established beyond India under the authority of the central government, then the property cannot be transferred. If one of the party transfers that property to another, then in such case, whatever decree will be passed in that suit, that will bind that transfer. That will override the transfer. That it provides what it says. During the pendency in any court having authority, during pendency of a suit in any court in India or a court established beyond India under the authority of the central government, or during pendency of a proceeding, and if that suit is not collusive, and in which any right to immovable property is directly and specifically in question, and in that suit the right to any immovable property is directly and specifically in question, then the property cannot be transferred. Then such case, that property, that immovable property cannot be transferred or otherwise dealt with. Not only, or there cannot be any dealing of that property. By any party. By whom? By any of the party to the suit, so as to affect the rights of any other party, so as to affect the right of the other party in respect of that property, if any decree or order which may be made therein by the court, except under the authority of the court and on such terms as it may impose. If the court has permitted that there can be an allegation, there will be an allegation, there will be a transfer on such terms and conditions, then in such case, if subsequently a decree and order is passed, then that will not affect the transfer. But if without the permission of the court, if any of the party has transferred that property or otherwise dealt at that property, then in such case, that transfer will be, what will happen? That transfer will not be affected. That transfer will not operate. That will be subject to the decree or order which will be passed in the case. In this context, you should remember that the lease pendens principle will be applicable even if a person becomes the transferee in good faith for consideration without notice of the fact that a litigation was pending in respect of that immovable property. Even good faith he has purchased, still the provision of section 52 of the Transfer of Property Act will be applicable, and that transfer will be subject to the decree or order passed in the case. Then what is pendency? During pendency of the suit or proceeding means the period, the date from which a plaint was presented or proceeding was instituted until the date of complete disposal of the case in appeal or complete satisfaction of the decree in execution. The entire period will be treated as period during which a litigation was pending. So this is the doctrine of lease pendens. So this is now let us discuss the provision of section 53 of the Transfer of Property Act. Section 53 and 53A are two important provisions. Section 53 says fraudulent transfer. What do you mean by fraudulent transfer? Fraudulent transfer means a transfer made with intention to defraud the creditor, with intention to defeat the creditor. When a person transfers his property to another with an intention to defraud or to defraud his creditor or to cause delay in payment of the debt to his creditor, then in such case, any of such transfer may be declared as void at the option of the creditor, either by one of the creditors. This principle is laid down in section 53 of the Transfer Property Act. What it says? A fraudulent transfer. So fraudulent transfer that has been means with fraudulent means with an intention of that is causing harm to another by suppressing something. What is that? Every transfer of immovable property, here every transfer, whatever be the transfer, made with intent to defeat or delay the creditors. So what is any type of transfer which has been made with an intention. What is that intention? To default or delay the creditors. To default the creditors so that the creditor will not be in a position to realize his money, or delay the creditors. If such a transfer is made, there will be delay in realizing the money or the debt by the creditors. So every transfer made with an intention to defraud, delay or defeat the creditors of whom? Of the transferor, shall be voidable at the option of any creditor so defeated or delayed. So this section 53 says that is fraudulent transfer. Every transfer, all types of transfer, if the transfer has been made with an intention to defeat or delay. Defeat means what? That the creditor will not be in a position to realize the debt from the transferor. Or delay. Delay means there may be, we may realize, but there will be delay. So in such case, such transfer shall be voidable at the option of any creditor so defeated or delayed. If more than one creditors are there, if one of them has filed a suit to declare that transfer as void, then that can be declared. So this is a case, this is a principle. What it says? There is a transfer. That transfer is made with an intention. What is that intention? To defeat or delay the creditors. Not creditor is what is here, creditors. Then in such case, or that transfer shall be voidable at the option of any creditor. Any creditor means any of the creditor, even at the instance of one of the creditor. So defeated or delayed. Nothing in this subsection shall impair the right of a transferee in good faith and for consideration. These wordings are not there in the doctrine of lease pendants. Nothing in this subsection shall impair the right of a transferee. That means when a transfer has been made by the transferor with intention to defeat or delay the creditors, but the transferee without notice of the same and in good faith for consideration has become the transferee, then his right will not be affected. This provision provides nothing in this subsection shall impair the right of a transferee in good faith and for consideration. If somebody has become the transferee in good faith and for consideration, even if such transfer has been made by the transferor with an intention to defeat or delay the creditors, then in such case, such transfer cannot be declared as void. A suit instituted by a creditor, which term includes a decree holder, whether he has or has not applied for execution of his decree. If a suit has been instituted by one of the creditors to avoid a transfer, if one of the creditor has filed a suit or instituted suit to avoid such transfer on the ground that it has been made with intent to defeat or delay the creditors. If a suit has been made, instituted on the ground that such transfer has been made with an intention to delay or defeat the creditors of the transfer, shall be instituted on behalf of or for the benefit of all the creditors. If any of the creditor has instituted a suit to declare such transfer void, then other creditors will get the benefit of that suit. So this provision provides, even if other creditors have not instituted a suit to declare such transfer as void, if a suit has been instituted by one of the creditors, or even is called a decree holder, if that is which term includes a decree holder, whether he has or has not applied for execution of the decree. Even if a decree holder, that means who instituted a suit, that benefit that will be given to all the creditors. Benefit of such suit will be given to all the creditors. It has been specifically provided in this section. What it says? A suit instituted by a creditor, which term includes a decree holder, whether he has or has not applied for execution of the decree, to avoid a transfer on the grounds that it has been made with intent to defeat or delay the creditors of the transferor, shall be instituted on behalf or for the benefit of all the creditors. If any of the creditors, that is for the benefit of all the creditors. Every transfer of a movable property made without consideration with intent to defraud or subsequent transferee shall be voidable at the option of such transferee. So every transfer of movable property made without consideration with intent to defraud a subsequent transferee, so first shall be voidable at the option of such transferee. So a transfer of movable property without, first a person has transferred certain property without consideration with intent to defraud a subsequent transferee. First, a person has transferred a property without consideration. Thereafter, he transferred that property to another person for consideration. Then, at the option of the subsequent transferee, who has become the transferee for consideration, he can then, that the previous transfer without consideration shall be voidable at the option of such transferee. For the purpose of this subsection, no transfer made without consideration shall be deemed to have been made with intent to defraud by reason only that a subsequent transfer consideration was made. So again it has been clarified, as because merely a property has been transferred, an immovable property has been transferred without consideration, and thereafter it was transferred for consideration. For that purpose, from that it should not be inferred that the earlier transfer was with an intention to defraud the subsequent transferee. So for the purpose of this subsection means subsection 2, that what provides? Every transfer of movable property made without consideration with intent to defraud a subsequent transferee. If previously a property has been transferred without consideration with an intention to defraud a subsequent transferee, then that will be declared void at the option of the subsequent transferee. But it has been clarified that for the purpose of this subsection, no transfer made without consideration shall be deemed to have been made. As because there is a transfer, first transfer is without consideration, from that it should not be deemed that such transfer had been made to defraud the subsequent transferee for consideration. Now, this is in nutshell, that is section 53. 53 is a doctrine of part performance. What is part performance? Suppose there is a transfer, and in proposal for transfer, and that there is a document in writing, and as part performance of that transfer, the transferee has taken possession of that property. Then in such case, he should not be evicted. He cannot be evicted by the transferor. And though the sale has not been totally complied, or sale has not been completed, section 53A says part performance. Where any person contracts to transfer for consideration, this is applicable only when there is a contract for transfer of property for consideration. Where any person contract to transfer for consideration, what property? Of immovable property. This section is applicable when there is a contract for transfer of immovable property for consideration in writing. There must be a document that is document. What type of document? That is containing a contract to transfer any immovable property and or on his behalf, either by the transfer or on his behalf, from which the terms necessary to constitute the transfer can be ascertained with reasonable certainty. What is that? Or from the document, it can be ascertained with reasonable certainty that the transferor or any other person on his behalf has contracted to transfer any immovable property for consideration. First, the transferor or any other person on his behalf has entered a contract in writing to transfer any immovable property for consideration, and the transferee has in part performance of the contract. That contract has not been completed. In part performance of the contract, the transferee has in part performance of the contract taken possession of the property, has taken possession of the property. In part performance of that contract, the transferee has taken possession of that property. Or suppose the transferee was already in possession and is continuing in possession of that property. Suppose a particular house had been leased out by the owner to another. Thereafter, he entered a contract to sell that house to the lessee, and in part performance for consideration, and in part performance of that contract, allowed the lessee to continue his possession. That will also be treated as if he had taken possession in part performance of the contract. Or transferee being already in possession, continues possession in part performance of the contract, like a lessee, and that subsequently the lessee entered a contract with the lessor to purchase that piece of house, that house for consideration, and paid some part of the consideration money, and as part performance of the contract was allowed to continue in possession of the house, and has done some act in furtherance of the contract. That means the person who is already in possession, he has done some act, continued some possession, and has done some act in furtherance of the contract, means he has paid some money or part of the consideration money. And the transferee has performed or is willing to perform his part of the contract. The third requirement is that the transferee must be always ready and willing to perform his part of the contract. Then, notwithstanding that the contract, though required to be registered, then notwithstanding the fact that the contract that we sale has not been completed because of want of registration of the document, then the transfer has not been completed, and the transfer has not been completed in the manner prescribed therefore by any law for the time being in force, then the transferor or any person claiming under him shall be debarred. Then in such case, the transferor or any other person claiming under him shall be debarred. What debarred? Shall be debarred from enforcing against the transferee and person claiming under him any right in respect of the property of which the transferee has taken or continued in possession. Then in such case, the transferor, or if the transferor is dead, his legal heirs or any other person claiming under him shall be debarred to enforce what? To enforcing against the transferee or any other and person claiming under him, either against the transferee or any other person claiming under him, any right in respect of the property of which the transferee has taken or continued possession. In respect of the property of which the transferee has taken possession or is continuing possession, other than the right expressly provided by the terms of the contract. If in the terms of the contract, if there is a condition contrary to this, then that is to be followed. So this is in section 53A. Provided that nothing in this section shall affect the rights of transferee for consideration who has no notice of the contract of the part performance. Suppose the transferor again transfer that property, though there is a part performance of the contract and possession has been delivered, and he again transferred that property to another person, and that person becomes the transferee without notice of the fact previously there was a contract, and then somebody had taken possession of that property, and he became the transferee for consideration, and who has no notice of such performance, then his right will not be affected by this doctrine of part performance. Section 53A. What is doctrine of part performance? The best example is that suppose X is a person who is the owner of a particular house. He entered a contract to sell that house to Y for rupees 50 lakh. Then he took advance of rupees 25 lakh from Y and delivered possession of that house to Y. So, with a condition that within 6 months Y will pay the rest amount and the document will be registered. And Y was always ready and willing to pay the balance money and to complete the registration. Thereafter, X cannot file a suit, cannot enforce his right to evict Y from that land, though the sale has not been completed, the contract of sale has not been completed, and by registering the sale deed. This is the doctrine of part performance. That means it can be used only as shield, not as a weapon, not as a claim. Only the transferor or any other person claiming under him will be debarred to enforce his right in respect of that property against the transferee or any other person claiming under him. This is section 53A. It can be used and only shield as a well to defend when somebody is to be evicted by the transferor on the ground that the sale has not been completed. But because he has a part of the contract, that means possession has been delivered to him, and that the transferee is always ready and willing to perform his part of the contract. So in such case, the transferor or any other person claiming under him will be debarred to claim any right in respect of the property which has been proposed to be transferred to that transferee. This is the doctrine of part performance, that is called equitable doctrine, because somebody has taken possession, he has paid, a part of the contract has been performed, then the transferee is always ready and willing to complete the transaction. But in such case, the transferor will be debarred to enforce any right in respect of that property. But it will not be applicable. This doctrine will not defeat the transfer if another person has become transferee of that property for consideration without notice of the same. You mark the difference in between the section 52, 53 and 53A. In section 53 and 53A, there is provision that the right of a transferee for consideration without notice will not be defected. But in section 52, such a provision is not there. So, respondent's doctrine, the respondent's provision, the respondent's principle will be applicable even if a person becomes the transferee without notice of the fact that a litigation is pending and for consideration. This is in nutshell the section 53A of the Transfer of Property Act. Now we cover the provisions from section 45 to 53A. In our next class, we will discuss the provision regarding sale, etc. Thank you all.